Tell us a little bit about what you saw and being able to relay that message to Cora when you watched Kimbrel pitch and kind of help out so he wasn't tipping his pitches.
So tipping pitches, we hear about it all the time.
People at home understand what tipping pitches is all about.
It's amazing.
And that's remarkable.
Alex, I have two personal observations from the San Francisco Bay Area to share with you to start this week's podcast. Your beautiful region, the San Francisco Bay Area.
The one and only.
Have I told the story of the My Beautiful Region thing on the podcast before? Do you know about this?
No, I don't even know what you're referring to.
One time I was on a bus tour of Tuscany. Stopped in like 3 or 4 different local cities, and the tour guide kept saying how much he was excited to show us his beautiful region. He kept us going, and you look to the right, you see the rolling hills of my beautiful region. And for some reason, that phrase has always just stuck with us. My beautiful region. So
my
San Francisco
my
Bay
beautiful
area.
region.
Yeah. So now it's like when we're when we get off the train at Citi Field and we see like the auto shops and stuff, we're like, my beautiful region.
My beautiful region.
When I see a Wawa, I point and I say, my beautiful region. Yes, exactly. It's a powerful thing that is stuck in my head.
I love that. But you were there in my beautiful region.
Correct. Yeah. Two observations for you about the Bay Area, none of which are about the Giants Stadium, which I also spent 4 hours at with your mom. Casual. Yeah. The first is that 1 out of every 10 cars is a Waymo now.
Yep.
And every time I see one, I want to step in front of it just to see what it'll do.
Right. Well, you were calling Waymos so that you could set them on fire, right? You were doing a little praxis while you were out there.
You can't say that on the podcast.
Oh, this is the main feed. Shit.
Right. Exactly. Save that for the Patreon feed. No, I was just staring at them every single time they drove past me. Just staring, nice. Shaking my head so that the people around me know that I didn't consent to this. In fact, nobody consented to it. I don't know how this happened.
That's true.
They just started cropping up. Okay, that's the first observation. The second observation.
They're coming to New York, Neo. You know.
Are you for real?
Yeah. They're gonna launch a pilot there soon.
Not if Zoran Mamdani has anything to say about it.
That's right, brother.
I don't think they're gonna survive. My whole thing is I don't think that they could survive on the East Coast.
Right.
I think people are gonna dismantle them.
I agree.
I think people are going to be walking around, rolling around Waymo wheels just for fun.
Right.
Through the streets.
Right. If the New York police department's autonomous robots ending up sideways on the subway tracks indicates anything.
Probably about a month ago, I was walking around my neighborhood and I saw one of those police boots, that they put on cars that have too many parking tickets, but it was just taken off of a car and left on the corner of the street. So if that's any indication, I don't think the Waymos are going to last very long here.
I hope that person is safe. I hope they got away.
It was just sitting next to a trash can, though. So, they were trying to put it there to recycle it.
Right. They said, I don't know when bulky pickup is.
Yeah. Bulky pickup happens once a week, though. So it really should have gotten taken.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
New York City trash situation is crazy. That's my first observation, that they're all Waymos. Waymos as far as the eye could see. My second observation...
Waymos all the way down.
My second observation is that people in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it's not all people, not everyone. I'm not trying to indict everyone here, but I heard several people just overhearing their conversations talk about X posts earnestly without a hint of irony in their voice. Someone was talking about a story. Another person said to her, "Oh yeah, I saw a post about that on X." And then they just kept on going. There was no the everything app. There was no
there was no wink and a nudge.
Yes. There was no the thing that most people do nowadays, which is or Twitter, whatever we call it now.
Right? Yeah.
No, they just call it X. So I dare say we've started to lose the war. We're still winning the battles over here on the podcast, but we're starting to lose the war.
Right. That was your equivalent of going to the diners in Middle America, right?
Like,
this was you
literally,
wanting to get in
correct.
touch with with the broader American folk.
Yes. How does that make you feel?
Well, I do love, honestly, how I kind of was not really sure how it was. But it was like, we're calling it X, and then there's the whole backlash, and everyone's like, whoa, we're going to call it like Twitter, And I was kind of like, maybe that dies down for a little bit. But we're like, what, 3 years on or something like that? And like news broadcasters still are like going, a recent post on X, or formerly known as Twitter, however you refer to it, I don't know, da-da-da. And I'm like, that's so sick that this is just canon, is that it's called X or whatever it's called these days.
I know, when the coverage of the mayoral primary,
that's, yes,
the
exactly.
newscaster just kept saying X or Twitter or whatever. She just kept saying it.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
Well, America's all about personal freedom and choice, You can choose to get the vaccine. You can choose to call it X. It's a personal choice, Alex.
Godspeed for spending like more than 24 hours in San Francisco. I hear that place has become a hellhole.
I think it's going to be a regular occurrence. I'll be sharing my San Francisco diaries here on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps they will be making up some of my 3 ups and 3 downs over the course of the coming years. We'll see. We'll see about that.
I hear you're getting heavy into local politics over there as well. You are trying to elect San Francisco's response to Zoran Mamdani.
I don't know anything about San Francisco politics.
Okay. You don't want to talk London Breed for a second?
I don't know who that is.
Okay.
Is that their mayor?
Yeah.
You can't have a mayor named to the name of a different city. That's sending the
great
wrong
take.
message.
That's a great take.
Well, like New York not going to
City's
elect
trying to become London.
Chicago.
San Francisco's
Mamdani.
already there.
Dare I say, if he was named Chicago Mamdani, I wouldn't have voted for him. I wouldn't have trusted him. Where do your allegiances lie, sir?
Exactly. Wow.
All right. Believe it or not, we actually have a lot of legitimate baseball stories to talk about this week. We are going to talk about a little observation about the Oakland Athletics and the deletion of history. We're going to talk about Fernando Tatis Jr. suing Big League Advance. And then, of course, we are going to talk about a story that we didn't get a chance to talk about in the last couple of weeks because we had banked an episode, and the story really unfolded more so in the course of the last week, the Los Angeles Dodgers and how they're handling the situation in Southern California with ice. We'll see what else comes up. Maybe Alex is going to talk about some guy standing around with shovels. Before we do that, I am Bobby Wagner.
I'm Alex Baisley.
And you are listening to Tipping Pitches. Thank you to this week's new patrons, Tyler and Pax. Also, thank you to everybody who has been upgrading in the last couple weeks to that top tier to get their bonus episodes. We used to have 3 tiers, Alex. Like America, we're trying to get more efficient, So we cut a tier. Mm-hmm. We had to cut the middle class. These things happen sometimes.
These things happen.
We're doing a little trickle-down economics in the Patreon tiers.
Hey, the lower tier now included with bootstraps.
So we used to have 3 tiers. We have 2 tiers. If you are in that middle tier still, we didn't cancel your subscription, but we are asking if somehow you're listening to this but not reading your Patreon messages, where I've been sending people messages on and off for the last couple of months. We are asking that you either upgrade or downgrade, I guess. We'd prefer it if you upgraded and got bonus episodes, because I think that's better bang for your buck. But we used to have 3 tiers that were $5, $7, and $12. Now we just have 2 tiers that are $5 and $10. One is like a basic level of support for the work that we're doing here. You also get added to the Tipping Pitches Slack. The top tier at $10 a month gets you all that other stuff, as well as 2 bonus episodes per month where Alex and I are doing 3 Up, 3 Down, an old favorite segment, sometimes with friends, sometimes just with us. And there's other stuff on the Patreon too. All in the back catalog from the off season. Some really fun ideas that we've done. So I encourage you to go check it out. This is my occasional, maybe monthly, earnest earnest plug of the Patreon, patreon.com/tippingpitches.
I will also note, we launched a new round of t-shirts
Oh, yeah, we did.
at the beginning of the month.
Yeah, we did.
And for those who've been following this saga, you can now order the t-shirt that you want and receive the t-shirt that you ordered. We are, again, cleaning up our supply chains.
Uh-huh. We brought production back domestic.
right, exactly. Bobby is hand stitching the shirts right now.
In our case, we always went through great troubles to always make sure that the shirts were actually made in the USA and printed with union labor.
3 new shirt variants, tippingpitches.myshopify.com. Also, if you have been listening to this podcast since day 1 or thereabouts.
No, if you have been subscribed to the Patreon since day 1.
That's what I meant. Yes.
If you've been listening since day 1, thanks, but you don't get anything. Except the knowledge that this pod has gotten so much better since we were
exactly
22 or whatever, 21.
If you're a day 1 patron, check your inbox if you've not done so already to cop a free shirt. And then, check out what else we have while you're over there. I think there's some cool designs, but that's just me.
Before we start talking about the A's, do you want to tell me how Venice is?
I was going to do this joke. I was going to do this bit.
How are you going to weasel your way into the bit, though? Like, what was going to be your foray in?
I was going to say, yeah, the service is a little choppy here. Like, I know it's a little bit blurry. I'm surprised that Bezos' Wi-Fi is not better over there.
A lot of people talking about Sydney Sweeney attending, not a lot of people talking about noted podcaster Alex Baisley in attendance. And you looked just as good, if not better, I thought, in the paparazzi photos. But the ironic part is, though, that you came from the Lauren Sanchez side. You knew her.
Right.
For a long time.
Right. I knew her prior to Jeff.
Right. So you're sort of like the Sanchez family. Which side of the aisle? The left side? Which side of the aisle is that when you actually sit during the ceremony?
Yes, I was. You saw Leo rolled up.
I did see that
in a
Dodgers hat,
all black Dodgers hat.
Yeah. What is he trying to say there?
I don't. That's quiet luxury, isn't it?
I thought quiet luxury was no logos. Are we extending quiet luxury to be baseball hats now? Because if that's the case, I'm all in, baby.
You are loud luxury.
Yeah, no. I don't really wear very many baseball hats anymore. I wear my Coca-Cola hat all the time.
It's true.
I'm wearing currently. I wear my gay Mets hat from Pride, from the Pride game last year. It's another one that I roll up with. Every once in a while, I'll wear a hat with Mr. Met on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have honestly, the hat that I wear the most is like this cheap ass Myrtle Beach, South Carolina hat that I wear to the gym because I don't care about it. You're more of a hat connoisseur, though.
I am more of a hat guy, but I cast a wide net. I was wearing my Pool Kids hat yesterday.
Did I get that for you?
You did get that for me. Today we're rocking a little Urban Outfitters mushroom hat.
Let's go. No free ads. I'm bleeping that out.
Okay, that's fine. That's where I get all my vinyl.
From Urban Outfitters.
Uh-huh.
You just have so many repeat Lana Del Rey albums.
You're right, exactly. I have Brat in all the colorways.
All right. Are you ready to talk about the A's?
I suppose.
I would venture to guess that a lot of people haven't seen this story.
I had not even seen it when you broached it with me.
So I originally came across this via X post, via the Everything app, which is that, so in the last couple weeks, it was the 2-year anniversary, June 13th. It was the 2-year anniversary of the first A's reverse boycott game. The big one. The one that was like appointment viewing. I mean, the one that you were watching in real time, the one that you were commenting in real time alongside as the A's broadcast was trying their darndest to avoid the sell signs, the sell chants. You were even making comments about this at the time. The 2-year anniversary of this, which is crazy, came up recently. Now, there were also smaller reverse boycott games throughout the rest of the year, one of which we were in attendance together, I believe in late July or maybe early August.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess in the course of coming across this 2-year anniversary, I think some people were going back and maybe trying to rewatch the game to remind themselves what it looked like. And I saw a tweet. I don't know who the first person to discover this was, but Jason Burke did a write-up of it in Sports Illustrated. The reverse boycott broadcast is no longer available to watch in full in the MLB TV archives. So if you subscribe to MLB TV, you can watch every baseball game that has been broadcast on MLB TV and select archived games. The ones that are archived even further in the back, you can watch on YouTube or whatever. Like they don't really put those behind a paywall. But for just random regular season games, if you are currently subscribed to MLB, you can go to MLB.com and you can click on watch, and then you can change the date and go back years and years and years and watch whatever game you want. Because MLB is like, well, this is not really, who cares? Like, this is, our business is live sports. And so the archive of it, whatever, we'll just put them up in full.
Yeah.
And when I saw this tweet, in my head, I was like, oh shit, that's crazy. But this also might be something that was a glitch and that someone might have posted about at some point, and then they immediately fixed it. That was like my most charitable read of the situation.
Yeah.
So,
incredibly charitable.
Before we sat down to record this podcast, I went to go check to see if this was still the case. And Alex, let me tell you, they have the game there. It's listed. Rays versus Athletics, June 13th, 2023. They have the different broadcasts. Bally Sports for the Rays, NBC Sports California, Bay Area, whatever, for the A's. They're just not hyperlinked. You just can't click them. You just can't watch it. You can watch the condensed game, where I'm sure they conveniently cut around all of the most aggressive crowd moments from the reverse boycott game. Or you can watch the highlights. You could listen on the radio, but you can't watch the broadcast. I almost can't believe that this is real.
It's
honestly.
actually pretty unbelievable. Yes.
I mean, it's one thing, there's this very present conversation, I think, of the idea of being able to easily erase history when everything is digitally available. When you don't actually physically own anything and you can't control the means through which you participate in the archiving of history. There's this conversation. This conversation is present for art. This conversation is present for news. This conversation is present for literature. And now I guess it's just we have to talk about it when it comes to something like baseball. We know what happened.
Yeah.
There was like anywhere from 20 to 50 reporters there chronicling what happened. We remember it. It was 2 years ago. And yet, I suppose MLB, the commissioner's office, or at the behest of John Fisher, has just been like, we don't want people to be able to watch this broadcast in full. And for what? You're now drawing more attention to this fact by doing something like this.
Yeah, this is the Streisand effect. And I feel like this is the A's do something like this every 6 months, where they're like, whether it's the replies on the tweets, they're like, we don't want anyone responding. So then all of a sudden, all people can talk about is how the A's don't want anyone responding to their tweets, or something like this, where you quietly delete a part of history that, frankly, probably would not have made many waves outside of A's Twitter saying, oh, it's the 2-year anniversary of this. Here's a clip of this or that, whatever. I don't really understand how they think that keeping up the or removing the archived game is somehow benefiting their cause, or the idea that keeping that game up is going to further expose and embarrass them. When, as you said, it already happened. You can't pretend like it didn't. And you sitting here, and you, as in MLB, trying to just,
to be clear,
quietly,
we as in MLB,
we as an MLB, right? Just trying to pretend like it didn't happen? Just assuming that we're all stupid?
Like, what is the fear here? I'm willing to go into the psyche of Major League Baseball and John Fisher. Is the fear here that even more incriminating screenshots are going to go around? Those went around at the time. Presumably,
They're already out there.
exist on the desktop of people's Macs from when they screenshotted it on their laptop. Like, what is this? I really don't get it from like a crisis PR perspective. I don't understand it.
No. Well, there was the whole controversy at the time, remember, where I think there was a home run that was hit in that game, and MLB intentionally cropped the highlight of that home run to exclude the like cell banner in the outfield.
Yes.
And it's just these little things like this that suggest, oh, you actually are not that interested in engaging with the diversity of perspectives when it comes to your fans.
Diversity of perspectives, chat. Let's do it.
You know what? Sorry, you didn't want to enter the marketplace of ideas.
No, they entered. They just happened to be bankrupt. The only explanation that I can think from a process perspective as to how this happened is that they immediately nuked the archive of the game, like at the end of that season or something, and that people didn't realize until 2 years later that they never wanted the archive to exist. Not that they went back, and this is still, frankly, confounding, even no matter what the reason that they did it, but not that they, like 18 months later, just decided, let's take this one single archived regular season game down. Now, what this has done for me is made me want to go through every single day of the last 15 years of baseball and see which games they've decided should not be available.
Right, exactly.
Like, is the Tom Brenneman game not there anymore? Can I not listen to Tom Brenneman say the homophobic slur? I'm actually
you've been
curious.
looking.
I'm actually curious about this.
No, honestly, it does suggest, like, what is the criteria for removing a game? Is this the one instance in which they've done this? That feels like a low possibility.
No, it can't be the one instance with which they've done this, because there has to be some kind of precedence for this. Otherwise, I think, frankly, John Fisher is too stupid to ask.
Right.
I don't think he's smart enough to think, wait, we can actually do that? There must be some sort of operating principle here.
The A's broke ground in Las Vegas this week. Did you see that?
I mean, I saw you tweeting. Sorry.
Posting.
I'm put one in the posting jar. I saw you posting.
Yep.
I saw you posting about it. How was that as a TV experience for you? Just a bunch of guys wearing hard hats.
Yep. Wearing hard hats, calling up other local elected officials to be like, thank you to the A's. This is such an important process for the city of Las Vegas, and this is a huge milestone in our stature as a sports town. Las Vegas is a sports town.
Yes.
Lots of praise being heaped onto John Fisher, right? His commitment. Because if there's one thing I have taken away from this whole process, it's John Fisher's commitment to baseball in Las Vegas, frankly. I guess I started that out as a joke, but I ended it in a serious place.
For some reason, I guess he is really committed to baseball in Las Vegas. I had the pleasure of telling some of my new coworkers what's happened with the A's in the last couple of years, because I was telling them that I was going to a Giants game. And that one of my new coworkers was like, "Oh, I recently went to, I think, not to a Ballers game, to a Roots game at the Coliseum."
At the Coliseum,
yes. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh man, such a shame what happened with the A's. Like, I'm glad that someone is still occupying the Coliseum. Occupy the Coliseum.
Occupy the Coliseum.
I'm glad that someone is still using the Coliseum because it's a great place to watch a sporting event." And a couple of my other coworkers were like, "Oh, what's going on with the A's? Didn't they go to Las Vegas?" And I was like, "Well, let me tell you, my friend.
Man. How much time do you have?
How much time do you have? You don't realize this, but you've set off the number 2 person in the world who is most likely to rant for 90 minutes about this. And of course, you're number 1.
Exactly. Yeah."
And I was like, "No, you might think that based on all of the insane planning that's been going on to send the A's to Las Vegas, but they're actually in Sacramento right now."
There's something really funny about doing your groundbreaking inside like a little facility that has already been built, right? And so just through the glass, you can see all the tractors that they've rented they brought in for this groundbreaking, but they're not actually using. They're just there as props in the background, and they've set up a little bowl of dirt that all the presenters get to come up with their shovels and pick the dirt up and then throw it back down in the same place, and they get to cosplay as doing labor for a day. And frankly, I think that's beautiful. That is beautiful. When do you think the last time John Fisher held a shovel was?
Well, he's been personally ripping out all those trees, I thought. So he's been digging them out.
That's okay. That's fair.
That's why he's jacked, bro. That's why he's freaking ripped. John Fisher's built like Popeye. No, I thought that one thing I appreciated was that visually it sort of looked like when you go to an aquarium and there's that part where the kids can walk over and feel the eels or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like for them breaking ground in Las Vegas. Just a bunch of people standing around with these dumb smiles on their face getting to do something that they never thought they'd be able to get to do. We're touching the stingray. We're digging the hole. We're digging a hole. Like, come on, bro.
Oh, so goofy.
Do people not realize that they look ridiculous and stupid? Like,
no,
this is part of my whole bring back shame take that I've been developing for the last 18 months is like, have the dignity to not do something that makes you look that silly. You guys are a bunch of businessmen who hijacked a baseball team from California, from Oakland. And you're going to stand around for a photo op wearing a hard hat, moving dirt 3 inches to the left.
Yeah. Like, come on. Be for real right now.
You don't have anyone in your life who could tell you that that's a bad idea visually. Really? Like, really?
I mean, no, they don't. Right? Like, that's kind of by definition. You surround yourself with people. Once you get to a certain level, you surround yourself with people who are saying, yes, Daddy J, you've got it, sir. You look great holding that shovel.
Was Cavill there?
You could break my ground any day. No, Cavill's
I feel like
there.
Cavill. I feel like he deserved to be there.
I think so too.
All that work he put in, and all the work subsequently that we don't even. I mean, all the great work he's done at the intersection of government and sports.
Yes, exactly.
Since then, I mean, he earned his place.
He really did. Not a peep from him in the last year. Honestly.
I'll tell you what. I did think about him when I was at the Giants game, and it was half empty. I thought, man, he would be posting.
You're like, Dave vindicated.
Dave was right. Should we make shirts that say Cavill was right?
Yes, we should. Right, if we listened to Dave Cavill, we'd all be at brunch right now.
Thank you, based Dave.
Oh, the A's.
So they broke ground technically on time, although they didn't actually do anything yet.
Right.
So we can't check off the bingo square that it's been delayed yet. But you still feel confident about that?
I think I feel pretty confident about it. It was funny to see Rob give a quote, I think, to like the Las Vegas.
Was Rob there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. All right, great.
Oh, my God. Yeah. He was standing right next to Fisher, holding the same shovel.
You think it reminded him of when they broke ground, the location of Woodstock 99? In Rome, New York, when they started building those stages? Do you think it instilled the same sense of pride in him?
Right. Well, he was there, right? He volunteered.
But as far as I understand it, he was like sort of the consultant behind the scenes of Woodstock 99.
Right. The sort of driving ideas guy.
Yeah. Right. He was kind of like the Dick Cheney of Woodstock 99.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. The Donald Rumsfeld.
The Kissinger of 99. So he was giving quotes. He was giving quotes there?
Yeah, he's giving quotes. He was talking to the local Las Vegas papers. There was one quote that I thought was really funny where he was like, honestly, I'm just really excited to see them finally break ground. Like, it was never in doubt, but you know, it's always nice to see. I was like, that it was never in doubt.
Right. It's holding a lot of weight in this
carrying a lot of weight. Exactly. Yeah.
Damn, that's really funny.
He also came out and said that he thinks it's a great time to invest in a baseball team. This is in response to Fisher courting, potentially courting minority ownership stakes or outside investments to help.
Fisher needing a little liquidity event is what you're saying?
Just a little liquidity, you know.
Just a touch of liquidity. just a smattering of liquidity on top of this whole. Well, I mean, when you spend $100 million on renderings, you might need to replenish the coffers just a smidge.
You do. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's money well spent. I mean, you got to spend money to make money, I always say.
Right. Exactly.
How are you going to get a ballpark in Las Vegas without spending $100 million on renderings in different parts of Oakland that you were never actually going to put a ballpark?
Right. Well, it's about the process, right? Again, Fisher, the ideas guy, big picture. He's not worried about the details, like quote unquote, where the team is going to play.
Right. Laney College,
City they'll be in.
On the water. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
It literally doesn't. No. As long as he gets to put his hard hat on and feel like a big boy.
Do you think
they let him sit in the fire truck afterwards next and honk the big horn?
I can't believe that Trump actually did that. I don't mean to go all blue wave on you right now, but the fact that he literally has used his presidency to be like, I want to sit in the big trucks and pull the horn is frankly one of the more relatable pieces of the whole thing, the whole situation. Do you think that John Fisher, in a sort of Rodriguezian way, thinks this process has taught me how to get my master's in failing and my PhD in getting back up?
I think that he thinks it taught everyone else how to get their master's in failing and PhD and getting back up. Right? This is him saying, "Yeah, I've had to struggle, but you all have had to see what it means to struggle too. You know, you have had to learn about this process." And it was funny. I mean, Fisher talked about like all the, the hate that his family has had to endure throughout this process. Okay. That's all right. I mean, it's what you signed up for, didn't it? You signed up to be a public figure owning a baseball franchise. Can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, I think is how the phrase goes.
Stewarding a baseball
if you want to go far. Oh, stewarding, yes. Steward.
Don't forget. This is the lingua franca of tipping pitches, A-Rod quotes, stewarding. If you want to go far, no, if you want to
go
if you want to go to Las Vegas, go with the politicians you've bribed allegedly. Oh, if you give a mouse a cookie, that's a good one. Was that your favorite children's book?
I loved that children's book, yes.
I don't think I remember really what my favorite children's book was. No, that's not true. I loved The Velveteen Rabbit.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, I loved Corduroy.
Always good.
In fact, when my friend had a child a few years back, I bought her daughter Corduroy. And I wrote in
really
this
sweet.
Inside of the book, I wrote, this was my favorite book when I was a kid, and I hope you love it. We call that generational corduroy. That's the generational wealth
of the traveling corduroy pants.
So okay, I want to get your occasional sort of perspective on this question. Do you still think the A's are going to play baseball in Las Vegas? Because I would say still about 50-50. Breaking ground maybe gave them 5 extra percent. So I'm 55-45, yes. But I'm not all the way there. Not by any stretch of the imagination.
I don't know. I kind of feel like it would be such an embarrassment for them to not ultimately end up in Las Vegas that Manfred will likely do whatever he can to make that happen.
Yeah.
Like if he wants his legacy really to be like rule changes and the new like media landscape, basically set Major League Baseball up for the future. If the third thing on that resume and labor peace, which he's been very successful at, but if like the third or fourth bullet point is like Bungle's move of A's to Las Vegas, like they end up in Sacramento long term or whatever, like I just don't think he has any interest in making that happen. And he's talked so much about how he wants to get this tied up before any talk of expansion or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of feel like they're just gonna bulldoze their way through. I don't know if it's going to happen on the timeline that they're talking about, because again, I hear that John Fisher, once again, does not necessarily have the liquidity that he needs to hold up his end of the bargain.
Yeah, you can only sell so much Gap stock.
You can't, yeah.
You've already sold as much as possible. No, you've already bought as much as possible to try to give John the liquidity, right?
Correct.
You're long on Gap.
Uh-huh.
I see this as all of a piece. Every action that has been taken about the A's is now in concert with each other, meaning that all of the different institutional forces, the Fisher ownership group, the league office, the city politicians, they are now all working in concert, frankly, all the way down to the field. Did you see the Nightingale report about Luis Severino yesterday?
Oh, where he was like, I just don't like playing. It feels like a spring training stadium.
Yeah, he keeps giving quotes about how it's like not pitching at a real MLB stadium, and he has like a 7 ERA at home this year, and he has like 0-5 or something at home. And Nightingale reported that the A's are now looking to trade him because he won't stop saying this.
No way, seriously?
Yeah. And so I'm like, they will literally stop at nothing, you know? They will stop at nothing. They will delete the reverse boycott game from the archives. They will trade players who point out the obvious facts that they are not playing in an MLB stadium.
Literally turning off replies on your players.
No, actually.
Like
they're doing like 1984
dissenting voices, haven't heard of it.
US Soviet propagandizing, you know? They're like in the Kremlin,
Right,
you can't say
calling
anything.
this the Green Scare.
The Green Scare. The Kelly Green Scare. I mean,
that's
it's just
crazy.
I know.
Man. Oh my God.
But it's the easy way to get yourself traded from the A's. You just keep saying stuff like that.
Right.
I'm hosting a watch party of the June 13th, 2023 game against the Rays on my Twitch stream. It's going to be me. It's going to be Hassan. Zoran Mamdani's going to be there. London Breed. London, what's her last name? London
Breed, yeah.
Breed. She's coming through.
Yeah.
He's coming through. Is it? I don't know. It's a gender neutral name.
She. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Girl boss. Girl boss.
Look, if John Fisher has questions right now about how to steward a professional sports franchise,
Clap it up.
how to secure capital for a professional
nice
sports franchise.
Yeah, I know 2 guys you can give a call.
I know 2 guys who would be happy to talk with you about that. I'm not talking about you or me, Bobby. I'm talking about one, Mark Laurie, Alex Rodriguez, who had their sale approved this week by the rest of the NBA owners. I mean, man, victory lap. It was so funny seeing the photos of him coming out of like the draft room, because they actually look like 2 Make-A-Wish kids, you know, who are just excited to be there.
Do you have a bucket list?
I don't have a written bucket list, but I have things in my head that I would like to do. Yeah.
Do you remember this fact about me that I used to have a written bucket list on a sticky note on my computer at WSN?
No, I don't remember that.
I don't know where it is.
And it was like 1 gallon bucket, like 5 gallon bucket, industrial size bucket.
Bucket of concrete for when I break ground in Las Vegas. All this to say, I think a new thing that I'd like to add to my bucket list, beyond the things that were written on that sticky note, is that I would really, really love to have a meeting in the new Timberwolves meeting room that was redesigned for like $70 million or whatever.
This is the one that like they are intending. It's not just for like internal Timberwolves people, right? It's
this
like,
was supposed to be a
like
place
available to other business owners and investors and whatnot.
This was a place that A-Rod wanted to refurbish in the bowels of the Timberwolves arena for millions of dollars. This was reported a couple years ago, maybe a year ago, because this was all part of the reporting around the contentious negotiation between Laurie and A-Rod and the old owner, the Taylor family, Glenn Taylor. about who was going to continue to be the owner. And the A-Rod and Laurie group had come in and already started to do some improvements to the arena because they were like, well, we're going to be the owners and we want this to be we want to hit the ground running. And
Pretty funny move, objectively.
I agree. So they get in there and they start spending millions of dollars on, refurbishing different parts of the arena. And one of the top priorities of Mr. Rod himself was that he wanted a beautiful new room to host business meetings in at the stadium. He's like, if I'm going to be here and I'm going to show people my asset, the Timberwolves.
He loves showing people his asset.
Then I want it to look nice. So my new goal, I don't know what this room is called. If we have any Timberwolves listeners, any members of the Timberwolves family,
right?
Maybe all the way
Anthony
down from
Edwards.
Nas Reed, all the way down to like a janitor or something. If you know what it's called and you know how we can get a meeting there, please hit us up, tippingpitchespod@gmail.com.
Do we have to like approach them with a business proposition? Like say we're interested in the naming rights for your stadium. I don't know what it's called right now. Can we discuss terms with you? See, here's the thing is like, if we can
Target
find
Center, of course.
Target Center, we can do better than that.
Target owns all of Minnesota.
Yeah, I know. But like, we know this about Alex, that he respects a cold call, right? He respects just kind of shooting your shot, going in there, not taking no for an answer. And so I think if we just found a way to get in front of him, he would hear us out.
I don't want the naming rights. I think naming rights are a waste of money. That's a liability, not an asset. I don't think he would respect us trying to pay for naming rights.
Jersey patch sponsor?
Jersey patch sponsor. It's more compelling to me than naming rights.
Okay.
But again, it's not putting money in our pocket every month. I want to buy.
That's true.
I want to offer to him to buy one vendor, like one person walking around selling popcorn. I want us to employ that person. See what he says. Get creative with it, We start with one. We start with the duplex.
Right.
You're a Jersey patch sponsor. It's not putting money in your pocket every month. My popcorn vendor.
Mm-hmm.
That's good return on investment.
Straight cash, too.
Exactly.
All right.
They're like, wait, can I pay with Visa? And you're like, the guy's like, no, you have to scan this QR code and pay the Tipping Pitches PayPal.
Right. Huh. You've got the wheels turning over here for me now. I just want to say that.
I bet. All right. You want to talk about Tatis?
Sure.
So this is a story that you brought to me. You broke it.
I did. I broke it to you.
And in the Associated Press. It's nice reporting about you.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I was interested in this just because we have talked about some of these types of stories before here on this podcast. And I think it sort of gets at the core sort of rot that lies at the sort of lower levels of baseball, especially those lower levels that are pulling heavily from Latin American pipelines of players.
I'd love to talk about core rot.
Oh, yeah. I think the apple's rotten right to the core, unfortunately.
Do you know how to do that dance? It's like,
no, I don't. I had to think about it for a second, but I can confirm that I don't know how to.
Which TikTok dances have you successfully pulled off in your life?
A handful. I learned one of the Haim ones.
Oh, okay.
Recently.
Any takes about Haim Zionism claims?
Nope.
Any takes about their new album?
It's fine.
All right, cool.
It's fun.
Sounds good.
I completely lost my train of thought. So we've talked about this a little bit before, Uh, these
I think this podcast is at its best when I successfully pull off making you forget where you are.
Yes, 100, like just absolutely wiping, like Men in Black style, wiping my memory by saying thoughts on Haim Zionism allegations.
Like, broadly speaking, it's almost like I find your MK Ultra phrase in real time.
Exactly.
I think that's when this podcast is really peaking.
Fernando Tatis Jr. is suing the company Big League Advance over the contract that he signed when he was 17 with them. This was one of these setups where they basically fronted him a certain amount of money. In this case, it was $2 million in exchange for 10% of his future earnings if he were to make it as a Major League Baseball player. He obviously did. He recently signed a $340 million contract. Not really recently. That was like 4 years ago. But all that to say, he is now on the hook for $34 million of that to pay back to Big League Advance. His claim and his lawyer's claim is that these are predatory lending schemes, that they are legal, at least in the state of California. And he's claiming that they misrepresented themselves, hiding their unlicensed status and pushing him into loan terms banned by California's consumer protection laws. We talked about a version of this. I mean, I think we've talked about Big League Advance before, but we also talked about, I remember a couple years ago, Finleet, which is a similar organization, although one that is more meant to include like the fan in it. It's like you can buy a share of your favorite player. And it's a similar setup.
So it's crazy even to hear you say that now. Honestly.
So just unbelievably skeevy. And when you talk about rot, buying shares in players comes to mind. It's remarkable to me that, and maybe we don't have the full story. Maybe MLB is doing more on the inside, but it's remarkable to me that Major League Baseball as an organization is not doing more to protect players from this kind of thing, especially young players who are often coming from a different country, right? And let's be clear, like this is largely who these schemes end up targeting is young Latin American players who are all of a sudden whisked to a new country.
Nice use of the word whisked.
Oh yeah. I love to whisk.
It's a good one. Paints a very vivid image in my head of how the Latin American players got here.
I mean, they're kind of just scooped up. And so these schemes are basically set up to say, hey, we'll give you some cash up front right now in exchange for your future earnings if you ever get any. Obviously, if you don't make it to the major leagues, you don't owe anything. But it is people like Tatis who then end up paying for the operations of Big League Advance, right? This is their windfall. You hope that one of the 10 players that you give out a loan to makes it big. And you use the earnings from Tatis to front the cash for the next 10 players and pay your own salaries and all this stuff. It feels so obviously predatory on its face. And you would think that if MLB was interested in protecting its players, like financially, that it would do more to, at the very least, educate them on what sort of deals they're actually getting into. Although I'm not surprised that is not the case.
I think it's super convenient for MLB to feel like this isn't their responsibility, as is the case with most, if not all, things with the international player pool and the financial market surrounding it. They feel very comfortable dictating explicit, specific terms and punishment for the violation of those terms to teams and to executives sometimes, as was the case with the Braves when they ended up losing multiple prospects that they signed illegally according to MLB's rules. They feel like they can get very granular when it comes to the financial market on the team side, the international bonus pools, things of this nature, even though there are some gray areas in how teams actually allocate that bonus money and when it becomes official and when they can be held to those rules versus when there's a handshake deal with a 12-year-old, which there's a lot of going on in the international market. And of course, the commissioner's office knows about all of that stuff because reporters know about that stuff. The public knows about that stuff. We know about that stuff. So of course, Rob knows about that stuff, probably in more detail than even we do. But for something like this, it's complicated enough, and MLB, it comes into this equation late enough in the process that I think that they can feel like it's not their job to fix. I think that they can, this notion of we don't actually have the jurisdiction to dictate to people what they can or can't do before they become drafted by a Major League Baseball team is a squishy concept. I actually, in some cases, am not really even sure what they could do legally, other than the fact that I know that they are the most powerful player in this equation, and they could very easily make stuff stop if they really wanted to, if they made it a priority, if they decided they were going to lobby statewide governments to make this kind of stuff go away. It would just go away. And then the knockdown effect would be these companies would know that they were never going to get their payout because each individual state or federally or whatever would, similarly to California, say that this kind of arrangement is not legal and therefore does not need to be paid out for one of the people who's living in our country working legally, Fernando Tatis Jr. I also think at the same time, like, we're only even reading about this because this is such a explosive marquee example of a deal like this. It's actually pretty rare that someone goes on. First of all, I would venture to guess pretty rare that someone even gets $2 million up front. That's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
For something
a
like
lot.
This. A lot of guys get
it's
like
more than a lot of players get.
A few $100,000 or even less, like $50,000, knowing that future earning is not going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars, most likely, but that $100,000 now in the present feeds your family for a year or two. And, at the bottom of this article from the Associated Press, BLA is also suing Franmil Reyes, saying that he broke his contract, breached his contract, and that he owes, something like $700 million or $800 million still from when he played in Japan.
$1,000.
Sorry, $1,000 from when he was in the majors, and then also some money from when he played in Japan. Because I think these contracts are basically like if you play professional baseball.
Right.
The $34 million that Tatis allegedly owes BLA, it has to be probably like the biggest payout they would ever get from any player. I mean, these types of deals are not, the super contract types of deals are not that recent, There's basically since Alex Rodriguez, we've had deals structured like this, super long, high value. And so I remember the conversation about this deal for Tatis Jr. specifically at the time when he got called up being, why did he take this money?
Right. Yeah.
His dad was a Major League Baseball player who made millions of dollars in his Major League career. Now, we don't know the finances of their family, but the conversation even then was knowing that this type of arrangement is predatory on its face. And I think there's kind of like no way that you can look at companies like this who insert themselves in as middlemen in the financial market of baseball just to try to make a slight to moderate to major profit, depending on the player, and come away thinking anything other than this is just a predatory arrangement. It's not unheard of in the levels of predation in under capitalism, but like it's pretty obviously shady.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you hear that Tatis was 17 years old when this was signed, and I want to be clear, he was already in the Padres organization.
Mm-hmm.
So like he was already under contract as a minor league player. And, I guess that's back in like 2016. So maybe it's a different landscape in the minors, you could argue. But like it does, it strikes me as like not a good look for MLB's image to have multiple players who are signing these types of contracts, and equally bad to have multiple players then filing lawsuits claiming that they were led into these predatory schemes. Francisco Mejia, I think, also sued Big League Advance a few years ago. I'm not sure that he actually won his case, but the point of the matter is you now have a handful of players who are saying, I was misled as a literal kid into signing this deal. And I don't know. I think you're right that like there's no easy solve, because Major League Baseball does not want to step in and say, like they're in a sticky situation because they can't really acknowledge the need on the part of players for something like this. Like they can't come in and say, well, we'll just set up our own scholarship fund for minor league players, because then you're tacitly acknowledging that like you don't provide for the players, for the literal kids that you're drafting. But also, what are you going to tell to the players? They can't make their own deals. They can't go and pursue whatever partnership or sponsorship or whatever that they are interested in to make that money. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I sympathize with them, but you see why they have just sort of stayed mum throughout all of this. And just let the free market do its thing. If there's another rent seeker that wants to work its way into this process, and fill that gap, I think that probably is partially how they see it, right? Is like Finlead or Big League Advance or whatever is filling a gap in our market,
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're getting the players paid. They're getting the players the stopgap money that they need until they get to the big leagues. And what's so wrong with that?
I mean, I think that the compromise solution here, if there is one, to be clear, I don't think that these companies should exist at all.
Right.
But I agree with your assessment that it's hard to eliminate this type of dealing without completely overhauling how pre-debut players or even pre-signed players make money or sustain themselves financially. I think that the compromise solution here would be a cap on the amount that you have to pay back to a company like this. Like maybe it's double the amount of money that they gave you or triple the amount of money that they gave you. Because then we're not talking about Tatis owing them $34 million. We're talking to them about him owing them $6 million, which is what he makes in, 30 games. And then it's like, do I think that these companies should exist? No, but that at least then they are existing in a more moderated position. But then, then these companies probably are not going to be liquid at that point, because their whole business model is like casting a wide net, giving a few $100,000 here and there. And I'm like, I don't know. Another piece of this is that these deals oftentimes happen before they're even on a Major League Baseball team's radar. A player might come into a pipeline, might come into a system, might sign a signing bonus, but they might have already signed one of these deals with some of these companies.
Yeah.
So it's like a second. The concept is like a signing bonus, but you don't have to pay your signing bonus back to a major league team.
Right.
So
I would be. There's a reason why this probably wouldn't happen, but like, I would be heartened to see major league players saying, we don't want, teenagers having to be in this precarious position, having to make these difficult choices and potentially be introduced to predatory loans. So we've set up our own fund, and Tatis put in, a few million, and XYZ players put in another million, and if you're a minor leaguer in need, like, you can apply for a scholarship, and sure, it's maybe not going to be $2 million or $5 million, but like, we've pooled our own money together because we want to look out for the next generation of ball players. here, we'll give you the $50,000 you need so you can like pay rent or whatever. I think that the league would step in and say, you guys are embarrassing us. Stop doing that. Stop paying minor league players because you're just drawing attention to the fact that we're not doing enough for them.
I wonder if there's like parts of the CBA that they are like can't even do that.
Right. Yeah.
Or if it would have to be organized by an outside company. But you know what? This kind of reminds me when I was going to college and I was applying for scholarships, I was applying for grants, I was applying for student loans. The difference between, so I got federal student loans and whatever. There's some of my loans are at like higher rates than other loans. I'm sure I would venture to guess most people listening to this understand the difference between like a plus loan and like a subsidized loan and like the different interest rates and the timeline with which you're going to have to pay that back. I also got a loan from like the school district that I went to had a scholarship fund, and the loan that I got from that scholarship fund was completely interest free. Like it sustained itself on donations from alumni and on the people who took the loans just paying it back straight up. So it was like a sort of financially net zero proposition, and it relied on like some generosity because of inflation and things of that nature. It relied on some generosity from alumni, knowing that they could give this money to future people who would participate in the same system. What you're describing for the players is more like that. What this is like is more like student loans from the federal government.
Yes,
you know
right.
what I mean? And we've seen how that explodes a market. You know, we've seen how that puts people. It's not the same because you're not going into debt from big league advance, really, if you don't make it big. But even still, I know how I feel about those two different financial systems and which one I think is more equitable in a world where people are really forced with a lot of very challenging decisions at younger ages than they should be expected to be able to make them.
I agree. Before we move on, did you want to buy a share in Emmanuel Clase real quick?
Oh, the shit, they got Class A on the market, bro?
They have Class A on there, which Finley acquired up to 3% of Class A's future earnings. Invest today to join this 3-time All-Stars career. Get your first dividend in August 2025. Only $12 a share. This is unbelievable. All right.
That's a bad investment.
We got to move on from this.
It's a bad investment to invest in relief pitcher future earnings. You know, that's it's a dark thing to say.
Yep.
But it's true. I mean, yeah, we're what like mere years away from the notion of like fans threatening players over sports gambling being completely exploded and exacerbated to be like fans threatening players over their literal shares of stock that they own in them. Like it's bad enough that you're fucking sorry. It's bad enough that your fucking series bet can be blown up by a player giving up a homer. But then when you're like monitoring their arbitration case and sending them death threats because they lost it, it's like, all right.
Yeah. I put my entire home into Fernando Tatis Jr. and lost it.
Yeah. My ape's gone.
Many such cases. All right.
Let's talk about the Dodgers. Let's talk about immigration and customs enforcement. So, okay. This story has given me kind of whiplash, if I'm being honest. I've kind of had a hard time.
There's like sort of 7 different chapters to it.
Yes. And they all happened in the course of like, I don't know, 34 hours. Last week on 3 Up, 3 Down, we were discussing, along with our pal Mike Schubert, a quote from Dodgers manager Dave Roberts. When he was asked when ICE protests, first of all, when ICE abductions started in Los Angeles, and then the subsequent ICE protests started, and then LA was basically a police state in martial law. The greater Southern California area was basically a police state under martial law for the span of 3 weeks, and still is in some cases. When Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, the marquee franchise of Los Angeles, the biggest team in baseball, a financial and cultural institution in the region, when the public face of that, or one of the public faces of that, was asked about it, he had nothing to say. He said that he didn't know enough about it. And on my downs was that eliding that sort of question just manufactures consent for these things to still going on. Like the different soft power, the different hard power that you have as the Dodgers institution, you could actually start to draw lines in the sand. You could actually start to fight against some of these things, and you're choosing not to. This is something that we see Major League Baseball do all of the time. And I said that, I levied that criticism. I was not the only one levying that criticism. I saw a lot of people disappointed in how the Dodgers were handling this. And then pretty quickly thereafter, we started to see or hear rumors and then eventually see photos of what looked to be ICE, or at the very least, Customs and Border Patrol, using the Dodger Stadium parking lot as a staging ground for their operations in the LA area. And this is all without me even mentioning what I kind of got into more on the Patreon episode, which is that the hypocrisy of the Dodgers to not want to take a stand for their immigrant community when that is what has made them what they are. You know, when they moved from Brooklyn and they came to LA, it wasn't like immediately they were embraced. It wasn't like immediately they became this multicultural touchstone of the beautiful city of Los Angeles that they, like to talk about themselves as now. But then, ironically, the patch that they're wearing on their jersey, Fernando Valenzuela, and the Mexican-American community was the thing that really started to ingratiate themselves as they embraced Fernando Mania, and the Dodgers more broadly, they ingratiated themselves into the city. I think many people listening know this. Mm-hmm. The Dodgers then had to put out a statement saying that they did not allow ICE or CBP or whatever to use their facilities. That agency made a request to them. They denied it. And they used this parking lot around the area, parts of which the Dodgers don't technically own. I think they're owned municipally, I guess. And so therefore, like a law enforcement group could use it if they requested from the LAPD or whatever. We know the LAPD is happy to do that. Is happy to terrorize the immigrant community of Los Angeles. It's their favorite thing to do. So the next, and this is all in the course of 2 days, by the way.
Yeah.
The Dodgers then finally put out an official statement saying that they denied access to parts of Dodger Stadium that they were requested to use, and that they were going to be donating $1 million towards broadly to protect immigrant families who are defending themselves legally, or, just to different, I guess, charities or legal funds.
Right. For families of immigrants, quote, impacted by recent events in the region, which is as mealy-mouthed as it gets, but,
At least there's some money attached to it.
Right.
That's kind of like the whole story, and then it has quieted since then. I think one piece of this that I find interesting is that it went from a small group of people being really mad, getting subsumed by a larger group of people, then praising the Dodgers for doing something like this, who didn't even know that there were a small group of people who were criticizing the Dodgers and mad about it before. So I actually think they come away from this looking a lot rosier than they deserve, frankly, because they were pressured into doing this. Now it's, I think, at least quiet comfort, small relief that we can pressure the Dodgers into doing something like this still in this current climate. But even still, I do not rescind my criticisms of how they handled it for the first 10 days that they could have done something about this.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's like Robert's comments on the situation was really disheartening. I think a lot of folks look to him as a sort of leader in the sport, as this really thoughtful, intelligent guy who is able to kind of maybe see the bigger picture and thinks not just about baseball, but kind of how it interacts with the broader world around it. And so I think that his statement of being I don't really know much about it. I haven't been following really, so I can't comment on it. Really hurt, because this is a guy who historically has actually seemed to take more of a stand than he has this year. And, we've talked about how the environment is different than it has been, say, during Trump 1. We talked about this with Hannah Kaiser earlier this year when she joined us for 3 Up 3 Down. That it's like, I think there are probably a lot of players and a lot of managers. I think the sport, just kind of writ large, is less interested in picking a fight with this administration. Does not want to make enemies. And so I don't know. The fact that the Dodgers did anything was, I suppose, meaningful. Like you said, it's like, okay, you come away from this with the acknowledgement that maybe bullying does work. And I mean that like earnestly, right? It's like, if enough people yell at you to protect immigrant communities, like, you might actually end up doing that. If a broad portion of your fan base is sitting here and saying you should feel ashamed of yourself, I think getting them to respond to that is a good thing. It's hard to say how much of that is just them going as the wind goes and recognizing that popular opinion is largely against these ICE raids. So I take it with a bit of a grain of salt. I don't know, but it's hard to feel happy about crumbs these days. I'm kind of like looking for anyone to have a fucking backbone.
Can I just want to add one more thing, which is not really an analysis of the situation, not really like a clever sentiment to share on a podcast, but like the photos that came out of this situation, I genuinely struggle to think of something that is more dystopian for me personally, looking at it. Like, not that I don't think that there are worse photos that have come out from these ICE raids, and not that I don't think that there are more dystopian things, but that is so uniquely targeted at people who think about baseball and culture and society and morals in the way that we try to in the community that listens to this show. Like, heavily militarized forces standing underneath signs that say thank you for visiting Dodger Stadium, trying to stage operations to deport our neighbors from this. Like, I used to live not that far from here, I sat amongst Dodger Stadium dozens and dozens of times with people that these agencies would consider their existence illegal. And I just, like, nobody wants this. Nobody in these communities wants this. Like, there is a total misunderstanding of, like, I don't know. There's just a total bastardization of the idea of, like, what it means to have a city when you have agents like this showing up at the behest of a presidential administration who doesn't give a shit about whether Los Angeles or New York or Chicago or whatever, like, as a city, lives or dies. The images and the idea of police officers, no matter what agency they're from, arresting and or abducting and deporting to random gulags the people who sell sausages and hot dogs outside of Dodger Stadium to bring joy to people while they're walking out of what I consider to be, like, one of the most joyous places on earth, Dodger Stadium, just fills me with, like, a deep, profound sadness. Honestly, it's just, like, I get really actually emotional thinking about it.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And, like, I'm mad at the Dodgers and I wish they could do more, but also I recognize that, like, the front lines of the resistance are not going to be baseball teams. But even still, it does bring me some form of sanity for people to bully the Dodgers into doing something that actually might materially at least affect some people. That's it. I think I take some silver lining from that.
Yeah, I think rightfully so. I think there was a maybe not incorrect assumption that the Dodgers would roll over for this.
Well,
or the Dodgers would
one of their favorite things to do.
Right, exactly. Their track record does not speak great of them. And so I recognize, like, our perspective on this is slightly shaded by the fact that we were not expecting anything. But you're right. It's like $1 million makes a material difference to the efforts of families who are fighting deportation or need housing or, like, whatever it is. Again, the details were really sparse. I think intentionally so. Even on that tweet that was really, really vague outside of committing $1 million to immigrant families.
I also
But
just want
the
to say, by the way, like,
replies were
$1
like,
million
oh, yeah.
is not very much money for the Dodgers.
Well, no, right? No, 100%.
Like, you guys could fund it all if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I heard they're not paying Shohei Ohtani anything for like the next 20 years.
Can you imagine
So, like,
how much poison this would add to the discourse if the Dodgers were like, we're taking our savings from the Ohtani contract and we're putting it towards the legal defense funds of immigrants?
I would get Mark Walters' face tattooed on my back.
I think you mean Lakers owner Mark Walter.
That's right, I do.
That's a crazy story that came out of the last couple of weeks too.
That is. We haven't even talked about that. I do want to get to that, not on this episode, but we have some. It's just every team's for sale. Like, should we buy a team?
I mean, every team's for sale in the NBA in particular because
that's for yeah.
of their new media deal, the payout from that ballooning the franchise valuation of these different teams. And then the Celtic sale and the notion of expansion coming means that now these prices have gone up all in one fell swoop. But yeah, we should buy a team. Fuck it. Yeah. I'd like to buy a WNBA team. I think that would be way more fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then again, like a lot of these ownership groups are buying both at the same time. So if there's a WNBA and an NBA team in the same city, they're owned by the same owner. This is what happened as part of the Timberwolves sale was also a Lynx sale. So
yes,
you want to talk about rings, bro. The Lynx are the piece of that equation that got A-Rod some rings.
So what you're saying is we should reach out to A-Rod and say, what is your advice for going through the sale of a WNBA team? And can it be decoupled from the local NBA team?
I would like to own the Seattle Storm. Let's get a fun going now, everyone at home. Let's buy the Storm.
We've reintroduced the third Patreon tier.
It's $1,000 a month, and we need about 500,000 of you to sign up for it.
Look, I think we can do it.
I think we buy it and we immediately give it to the city of Seattle, right?
And make Macklemore the president and CEO.
It's only Macklemore songs in the arena. He's doing like a Las Vegas residency, but in the Storm Arena. He's there every night.
Storm.
Oh boy, I knew we could find a way back to Macklemore. Didn't you send me something recently with "Same Love"? Wasn't there?
Yeah, it was Zoran tweeting about it, like tweeting about it like 15 years ago with the comment like "powerful."
He's just
like I knew he was a real one.
Real, he's just like me for real. All of his old tweets coming out are so funny to me.
I know.
His tweet that was like, just watch Mississippi Masala. So proud of my mom. In like 2012. That fucking rules.
He's so cool, man.
Yeah, he is really cool. That was a crazy thing.
However, we are refraining from endorsing him.
No,
at the time being until we have more
can't
dialogue.
Possibly endorse him and Bill Ackman at the same time.
That is true. There is a conflict of interest there.
I fully endorse a Bill Ackman run for mayor. I want to live in the world in which we see him try to become mayor.
Without a doubt. I will put up as much cash as possible. I will exit the Storm deal so that I can add more money to the ACK pack.
The ACK pack. Oh boy. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to another bang up episode of the Tipping Pitches podcast in which we actually had to discuss 3 Tipping Pitches news related items. Mm-hmm. 3 real stories coming off the heels of the Wikipedia game, bro. Talk about whiplash.
Weeks where decades happen.
Right, exactly. And the decades are us trying to find the Wikipedia page for UCL reconstruction.
Exactly.
If you liked what you heard and you want more Tipping Pitches in your life, there's a whole back catalog here on this public feed. But there's also the Tipping Pitches Patreon, patreon.com/tippingpitches. We did a big long plug for it at the beginning of the episode, so I won't waste too much time. If you signed up to come to the Tipping Pitches Kansas City Royals meetup on Saturday, September 6th against the Minnesota Twins, not the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Minnesota Twins. We have purchased tickets for that event. And if you indicated that you would like to come, you have received an email from the Tipping Pitches podcast. If you haven't seen that email, and you haven't paid for your tickets, please just go, I don't know, I guess check your spam maybe. We're spam to Gmail. Big Sergey out to get us, trying to send us to the spam folder. I don't know. Your friend Sergey.
Right, yeah. I told you I'm more of a Larry Page guy.
Oh, shit. I keep forgetting that. I keep mixing that up. How would you rank Sergey, Larry Page, Larry Ellison, Zuck, and Elon? Go. Speed round. Speed ranking segment.
Oh, yeah. We're bringing it back. Well, Peter Thiel is 0. I know you didn't mention him, but and then
in our contract for when he funded this podcast, he said not to mention him by name. So
that's fair. Yeah, so you can bleep that out.
He looks really good, by the way. Whatever he's doing is working.
It is, and he should keep doing more of it as much as possible.
He needs a new.
I'm
blood
just saying,
boy.
whenever he's on, he should double his dose.
He needs a new blood boy.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think I'll go.
I can't believe
Ellison,
you're actually doing
1.
Let's go, Ellison.
Mostly because I love software. Software as a service.
I mean, who doesn't? It powers this economy.
I learned so much about Oracle last week. It's unbelievable.
I know. Some of our finest work.
Just reading Wikipedia.
I thought it was vastly entertaining. I don't know. We got some positive feedback. I'm sure some people were like,
Good.
"This is terrible."
It's okay. We're recording for us, you know? Audience of 2 over here.
To that I say I don't shy away from criticism.
That's because we've entered the marketplace of ideas.
Yes, and our check's clear in the marketplace of ideas.
Exactly. And you know what? We will never take an episode down. It's all up there. Every single one. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
We currently have about like 75 episodes that are down for copyright infringement.
Yes.
But we didn't take them down.
It wasn't on us.
It was Spotify's fault.
Wow. We can say them again.
Uh-huh. Okay, so Ellison number 1, Page number 2, obviously.
Page number 2.
Larry's only up top. Just a big Larry guy.
Only Larry's. Yeah, Allison, Page, Bryn. What was Elon and who else was in there?
Zuck.
Oh, Zuck. God, that's a really tough one.
I know.
It's a real let them fight for last place there.
Don't you remember when they were gonna fight?
Yep. Feels like a different time, honestly. And we were like all obsessed with that for 72 hours. We talked about it on the pod.
I'm pretty sure we did, yeah.
Bleak stuff.
One of the
I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna
one of the
leave it.
Spotify C-suite people, when I did my Spotify onboarding in Sweden, was wearing a shirt UFC style that said Zuck versus Musk. That's a real thing that happened to me. And you guys wonder how my brain turned out this way.
Shame. Not enough of it. Bring it back.
I mean, come on, man. You got to put Zuck above Musk, I think.
I guess, yeah.
Because of Sweet Baby Ray's, if nothing else.
Are you stoked for Social Network 2, Social 2 Network?
Dude, no. Frankly, I'm not. Aaron Sorkin hasn't directed a good movie yet.
Right, ever.
We're still waiting on the first good one.
We're still waiting.
I mean, he's written some of the best movies of all time and some of my personal favorite movies. And of course, your favorite TV show ever.
The Newsroom, yes.
And your second favorite, The West Wing.
The West
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to be able to get everybody back in the loop. Also,
not.
The story sans Andrew Garfield is not that interesting because what makes Social Network 1 so good is actually what is bad in the real world, which is that it makes you sympathize with Eduardo Saverin, who does not deserve any sympathy, frankly. He's doing
exactly.
He's worth like 18 billion now.
Yeah.
But you're watching that movie and you're like, this is a sympathetic figure.
Yeah.
You know?
So I want the Winklevi story, you know? I I want to hear how they ended up, where they ended up.
Aren't they doing like crypto scams now?
Yeah, they're crypto guys now.
That's one of the least surprising.
All roads lead to crypto.
I think that's what the company that Eduardo Savern went on to found after that was like a crypto company.
Really?
Too. Yeah, I think
nice.
So. We could find out. Let's check out Wikipedia. We're back. We are back.
I came across two paths in the forest. They both led to crypto somehow.
He's the co-founder and co-CEO of the venture capital firm B Capital and has also invested in early stage startups such as Quickie.
Yep.
Oh, so he's just doing venture capital. It's actually kind of boring. I'm sure they trade some crypto too. His birthday is only 12 days before mine.
It's the invisible string right there.
Oh, his venture capital firm has a strategic partnership with Boston Consulting Group. God damn it. Do any of these guys ever do anything on their fucking own anymore?
No, they don't. Also, can I just say, I do love that our very serious baseball episode ended in the exact same place that last week's goofy episode ended, which was just scrolling through Wikipedia, seeing if there's a controversies section.
I don't even remember how we got there. Oh, I was talking about the Kansas City meetup and how Google was sending our emails to spam, maybe.
Wow, that was kind of
that was a good old
legendary tangent. Yeah.
Anyway, if you are still planning on coming, which I hope you are because we already bought your tickets, please check your email and please follow the instructions within that to get your tickets. You can pay us on Elon Musk's PayPal or Elon Musk's Venmo to get access to your ticket. I'll just send it to you in the MLB at Bat app. Super great how that stuff all works. And yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Alex has never been to Kansas City before, and I've only been once, so I'm excited. It's going to be a really fun time. There's going to be a lot of people there if everybody actually pays for their tickets. So we're pumped. I think that's all I got. You feel good about this episode?
I feel good about this episode. I do want to let you go. I think Jeff popped his head in. Justin was wondering when you were going to be done recording, so I want you to enjoy the rest of the festivities out there.
See, because the continuity of this episode had you as the one who was at Bezos' wedding earlier in the bit. So people are going to be really thrown off by that, you know?
That's true.
You're breaking bit continuity here. It's dangerous what the doors you're opening up.
This is going to go in the bloopers section on our Wikipedia page.
Jeff popped his head in. No, we're both in Venice. We're staying at different hotels because I'm here with Bezos and you're here for Lauren Sanchez.
Right, we're with different sides of the family. It tracks. Oh my God. All right, end the episode. It's over.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you in 1 week's time.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alex Rodriguez. Tipping pitches.
Tipping pitches.
This is the one that I love the most.
Tipping pitches.
So we'll see you next week. See ya!